Welcome, 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 everybody, to Get Better Roles. My name is Ann Alexander Cedar, and I am basically going to walk you through the past 11 years in a very, very condensed form of how I relaunched my acting career, then figured out how to get more and better auditions, and more importantly, how you can too. So, when I was about 28 years old, I had been a trained actor. I was SAG-AFTRA. Back then, those two were together. I was working on my equity card, living in Chicago, doing a ton of theater, that kind of stuff, but still working enough on screen to have my health insurance paid for by SAG, which I was very, very proud of. And right around that time when I started to actually not have to work a bartending job anymore is when I met my husband, who was first my boyfriend, obviously. He was this hot German guy. I fell head over heels in love with him. And about a year later, found myself living in Germany, pregnant, getting ready to start a family, and not having a clue how I was going to make this career that I wanted so badly and that I had been working the previous 10 years so hard to get, how I was going to make that a reality here in Germany, where I live. Number one, I didn't speak any German, and acting is communicating. So if you can't communicate, that's a problem. Two, I didn't have any industry contacts. I didn't have a clue how the industry worked. I didn't know who to ask, all of it, right? All of these things. So for the first couple of years, I was busy being a mom. And then fairly shortly after my son was born, I started getting itchy again and looking around and trying to see if I could find something to do. And it turned out there was the American Drama Group in Munich. So I thought, aha, okay, let me go there and ask them. Well, I had a wonderful conversation with the owner of that, but it turned out that they were a traveling company. So they would travel all around Europe performing plays, but with a little baby at home, I was not willing to do that. And I got up to leave, but just before I was about to shut the door, I had sort of a thought. And I said, do you know anybody who I could call? And he gave me two names, one of which ended up becoming extremely helpful to me in beginning my voiceover career. So I had done voiceover back in America, but my bread and butter was theater and film and screen. It wasn't voiceover. So I had an idea what you were supposed to do. It wasn't like my main thing. But pretty quickly, I started to get more and more work. It just kind of snowballed. And I think it was also during a heyday, right? So, I mean, at times I was running from 3 to 5 jobs a day. But even still, it was very flexible. I used to drag my son around with me everywhere. And then I dragged my son and our dog around with me everywhere. And I was still always, even when I had 4 or 5 appointments in a day, I was still at home in plenty of time to make dinner and play with my son and do all the things that, a traditional wife does. It was a long time ago, people. And the voiceover led to presenting work, like doing pre and post things like a boulevard type show. I'm not even sure what it's called in English, to be honest. Like I worked for Constantine Television. I was also working for Allianz and for Audi. I was the spokesperson for Audi for 7 years, which led also to commercial work, which was all well and good, right? I was making my money acting adjacent, but it wasn't what I signed up for. And it certainly wasn't what I wanted when I became an actor. But I would also feel guilty because I have this beautiful family and I was technically making my living as an actor. And I sometimes would feel like, just be happy with what you have. And I tried to be for a long time, for 16 years, as a matter of fact. And, it wasn't until my son and I used to have a standard movie date every Friday night. He was my movie buddy. We'd go to the cinema and watch movies in English. And that weekend, my husband happened to be going out of town. And my son came to me the Thursday before. He came to me the day before and said, Mom, I hope you don't mind, but I would rather hang out with my friends tomorrow than hang out with you. Gutted, of course, but this day I knew it was coming. And I quickly composed myself and told him to go have fun. And then I sat down at my computer and just like kind of on a whim, started Googling to see if I could find an acting workshop in English in Munich, which was not normal back then. We're talking now almost 15, 16 years ago. So it was not normal. And wouldn't you know, there was one acting workshop starting the following day with one spot open. And I immediately whipped out my credit card and signed up for that thing. And I showed up the next day and I just ready to, I didn't know what, right? I hadn't done anything in 16 years, but I was excited and I was ready to do whatever it was. And it's like riding a bike, you know, that's how it felt. It was like he was a great coach. We jumped right into some really meaty exercises. And even now I get a little bit emotional thinking about it because it was such a revelation for me. And I left that workshop on the Sunday feeling like a pilot flame had just been lit underneath me and just had combusted into flames. And I was on fire to pick up my acting career where I left off because I felt like I had been trying to kind of breathe underwater for 16 years. And what I had been looking for, my element, all this time was actors, being with actors, working with actors, acting and storytelling in this beautiful, expressive way. And I decided pretty much right there and then that there was no turning back for me. I was 47 years old. I was still a foreigner living in Germany. My German still wasn't hot. Because up until that point, we always spoke English in our home, and my jobs were all in English. At that point, I was like, everything has to change. Now we are changing the family language to German. I need to start practicing German. Any of you who know me, I know there are a couple people on this call who actually know me. I'm really strict about speaking German when I'm out with Germans, because if I'm not, then it would just go down the drain, right? You have to practice what you have. But there was one thing that I realized very quickly. All of the chances, all of the opportunities that I had been given as a 20-year-old woman were not going to be given to me as a 47-year-old woman. And that made me realize that I desperately needed some sort of a framework and strategies if I was going to make this thing work. Not only that, but I was very rapidly advancing on 50 and needed to, time's limited. It's like that clock is ticking. So what I want to say is, if you are an actor who is trained, who with a minimum of 2 years experience pursuing acting professionally, if you feel like you aren't getting enough high caliber roles, or you feel like you're often being miscast, or you feel like you're doing everything right. Maybe you have an agent. Maybe you're sending out your materials quarterly to the casting directors. You're going to workshops. You're doing all the things that we were told we needed to be doing in order to be found, and you haven't been found yet. If you're tired of waiting for the powers to be to find you, and you want to take back your power and get control over your career, then you are in the right place, because that is exactly how I was feeling about 10 years ago. And it was a journey to make that framework and find the strategies that work. But that's what we're going to get into right now. So the ideas in this workshop are unique and different. You are not going to ever hear me ask you to play small. I'm not going to ask you to do things right. I don't believe that there is a right or a wrong. There is only two rules, I would say. One is you must be working on your craft. That is an absolute given, because that's what we're selling, right? And the other one is you must have the understanding that you are in business for yourself, and nobody cares about your career like you do. So don't give away your power. Don't give away all of that to other people to take care of for you. There is no one size fits all approach. What I really like to teach my clients is to trust their instincts and to become empowered. It's a step-by-step process. And the good thing is, the more you follow the process, the more you get used to listening to that voice that we all have inside of us and trusting it more and more. and learning just, it's just like anything else. Think back to the day when you were starting your acting career, how it was as an actor compared to how you are now as an actor, right? There are skills that you have learned that have just become part of who you are. And understanding the business of being an actor is very much the same way. So these skills all build upon each other. And so the more you learn them, the less you need a guide, right? Which is how I like to think of myself. I'm not a guru in any way, shape, or form, but I may be 5 steps ahead of you, 10 steps ahead of you, 20 steps ahead of you, depending on where you are. So I can tell you how to get to where I am. And then I'm going to still keep trying to get to where I want to go as well. And this is a proven framework, right? These are proven strategies. It's a proven framework. These are things that I've spent a lot of time thinking, interviewing people, trying out myself, working with coaches, all sorts of things to make sure that it works. And the proof is in the pudding, because I'm a working actor again. And not only am I a working actor again, but I've been able to go from small co-star, small recurring, to getting auditions for major roles. Just came back from Malta, where I had been cast in a Netflix series. It works if you work it. So I want to give you all that reassurance. Today's goal is to try and give you, in the very limited time that we have together, as much information as I can, so that you can get the basic understanding that you need to get more opportunities to better roles. That's what it boils down to. A lot of this is going to be about making you aware of perhaps areas in your career that you need to look at more closely, which is what we all need, right? We need to know the parts of our career that are on unstable ground so that we can do something about it. So that's a lot of what this masterclass is going to be about, is helping you to recognize where the unstable places are on the ground that you are trying to build your career on top of. If any of you want to grab a paper and pencil, maybe now would be a great time to do that. So I'm going to be giving lots of value, as much as I possibly can in this short amount of time. So I'll quickly go through an itinerary of what we're going to talk about today, the topics that we're going to cover. We're going to talk about some of the biggest challenges that we're facing as actors. And that's so that you can gain clarity on some of the obstacles that you may be facing in those challenges, and which makes them obviously easier to tackle, right? We're also going to be talking about approaches to combating our most common challenges, right? So it's one thing to recognize them, but we also have to have a couple of strategies in place so that we know what to do when those darn things pop up, right? Then we're going to get into the fulfilled actor framework. This is a quadrant that I have devised to let you see where exactly you are in your journey, whether it's beginning, middle, to where it doesn't matter where you are. It matters how fulfilled you are, right? And this will let you see what is lacking in your career, or where your stronger points are, whatever it is, so that you know where, again, you need to focus your attention. Then we're going to get into 3 big actor blind spots. Look, blind spots are just that. They're those terrible little things that you cannot see. And that's often because blind spots show up disguised as something else that your mind will be making all sorts of excuses for, making logical excuses for. But I don't want you to be fooled by that. So we're going to get into 3 of the top ones so that you can recognize these darn things and then course correct before they derail your career, basically. Then we're going to get into the 5-pillar framework so that you understand how to build your career and how to have a strong base on which to build your career. And finally, we're going to get into understanding the journey from invisible to in demand, so that you can gain insight into the transformational path that leads to becoming a sought-after actor, filled with actionable steps for your own journey. So hopefully today you are going to walk away with a deeper understanding of how to navigate your career with confidence and clarity. I want you all to feel empowered after this workshop, equipped with strategies to overcome some of the major challenges that we face and avoid a lot of the common mistakes that we face, and I want you most of all to pursue a path that leads to both fulfillment and demand in this industry, because I think we all became actors. It's a higher calling, right? We want to give. We want to feel like we matter, like we are making an impact in the world. And that leads to fulfillment, right? So I'm, as I said, going to be giving as much information as I can in this, but information without implementation, without taking action, will not do anybody any good. So I would love to know who has plans to take action on these thoughts. I hope so. Whoever resonates with this, please just drop action or yes into the chat. So I know you're with me on this. So I know I'm not just wasting my breath and talking, and nobody's going to take any action on it. Yes, wonderful. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. Because again, action without implementation is useless, right? We're all walking around with the Library of Congress in our phones, right? We've got all the information in the world right here. But unless we actually take that information and do something with it, we are no different than anybody else walking around with their cell phone, right? So I love it. Nico, Judith, fantastic. Love it. Lots of action takers. So when my son was a little boy, my husband was working in Berlin a lot, but I live in Munich, and Berlin is far away from Munich. So my husband would fly up to Berlin twice a week and spend the night and be gone for a couple of days and then come home and do the same thing again. On one of these trips, I had been out. It was beautiful, one of the hottest days on record in Munich in the past 100 years, something like that. And I had been out running around with my baby, and we were both hot and sweaty and tired and just wanted to get upstairs and have a cool drink and lay down and relax. And I pull into the garage, and don't ask me how I did it, but somehow I turn off the car. I had the keys in my hand. I open the door to get out of the car. And as I'm getting out, I hit the electric lock and drop the key on the floor mat and slam the door, locking my baby, my beautiful baby boy, in the back seat of the car. Thank God we were in the garage, because had we been outside, I would have immediately had to break the window. That's how hot it was. But in the garage, I had a little bit of time to figure this whole thing out. He was old enough to talk to answer me, but he wasn't old enough to, his fingers just weren't strong enough to open that seatbelt, you know? And I was trying to get him to open it, and then neighbors were slowly coming over and trying to help him to open it up, and we just weren't having any luck. So finally, someone suggested calling ADAC, which for those of you in America is like AAA. And this guy shows up and gets out and walks over, you know, and pulls out these two little plastic rectangle thingies, kind of looks around, puts them into the little like crack in the window, right? Squeezes these little paper thin things in there. And then he hooks them up to this little bulby looking thing, and he starts to pump these things up. And they slowly but surely start to make a little wedge in the window so that he can insert his tool and open the door. And within 5 minutes, the door was open. I had my baby and I was ready to go. And the reason I tell you this story is because the thing, the person that is most precious to me in the entire world was within reach, and I just couldn't get to him. I could see it, I could feel it, I could talk to it, but I just couldn't get to him. And I just needed someone to show me a way in and help me get there. And that's what that was, right? So let's get into some of the challenges that we're facing. The challenges you're probably experiencing around getting more opportunities to better roles are, you want more of them, duh, right? And maybe you don't know what else you can do to get them. Or you know that there's a lot you could be doing, but you don't know where to start, or which actions will be the most effective, or which actions are not going to annoy anybody or offend anyone. And you might be feeling frustrated and maybe even a little bit hopeless, because what you want is to create a sustainable career doing what you love so that you can make an impact with your life and feel like your contribution to the world of filmmaking matters. And maybe even beyond that, because I think as actors, as storytellers, part of this beautiful collaborative art of theater and film, we have the power to reach beyond the words that have been written for us and touch people in ways that make them feel less alone. And I think in the end, that's one of the most beautiful things that one human being can do for another. And I think as actors, what most of us really struggle with is being able to articulate that thing, that special thing that we have, right? What I like to call your unicorn factors that make us unique. And because we struggle with being able to identify them and articulate them, that makes us in turn struggle with our marketing and our messaging and our networking, which leads to us getting less auditions than we deserve and a career that lacks momentum. But deep down, most of us know that we are missing something essential, right? But we feel maybe overwhelmed, not knowing what to do, where to start. And sometimes we also lack the confidence when it comes to taking action, because as I mentioned above, we don't want to step on anybody's toes, right? But in the end, the one thing that we really want is better relationships with people in a position to cast us so that we can get more opportunities to better roles and take back our power and have the career that we deserve and that made us become actors in the first place. We want to feel acknowledged. We want to feel valued and appreciated for our talent so that we can connect and make an impact with our art so that our lives have meaning. And of course, it wouldn't hurt to be compensated properly either, right? So who here resonates with that? Let me know in the chat if you resonate with that. Just drop a yes or resonate or a money sign. I don't know, whatever it is. Yes, exclamation mark works too. Yeah, definitely. Because this is, I think, the most, I mean, I've had hundreds of coaching calls and many clients, and this is the one thing that comes up that we all struggle with again and again and again, because we are just too close. It is so difficult to see ourselves clearly. We need to get outside perspective from someone who understands the business and can give us the feedback we need so that we are assured that the messages that we're sending are being received in the way we intend them to. We all know as human beings, we can be saying one thing and somebody is hearing something else. And the same thing can happen when we are trying to create a brand for ourselves, right? When we are trying to create an image for ourselves, when we're trying to put it out there of what we have to offer, what we bring to the table. And we have the things we would like people to see, or the way that we would like people to see us. And then there is the way the industry is actually seeing you. And the more those two can overlap, that's what I love to call your sweet spot. Because the bigger that sweet spot is, the more opportunities you are going to have. So what can we do about it, right? That's why you're all here. What the heck can we do about all this? One thing we can do right off the bat is get comfortable with being uncomfortable. What does that look like? Think of your comfort zone as a balloon, right? A huge balloon that you can blow up just a little bit more every day. And that balloon will never, ever break. And every time you do something that is stepping outside of your comfort zone, you are expanding that balloon, which represents your comfort zone, right? You're expanding it. So the things that were scaring you yesterday and today now lie within the borders of that balloon. And outside, there may still be some things that scare you because, as they say, new level, new devil, right? As you begin to climb in your career, as you begin to get better roles and get better agents, and you're still going to be faced with situations and people and things that maybe intimidate you or maybe make you feel uncomfortable. But the more you take action on those things, the more you will be gaining confidence. It is the action taking itself that gives the confidence. not the thinking about the action taking. And that it's like this in German, they say a Teufelskreis, which means a devil's circle. I'm going to call this an angel's circle because it's like this beautiful thing that feeds into itself in a wonderful way. So the more you face your fears, the more you face your discomfort, the braver you get, and the more confidence you develop, and the more you begin to trust yourself that whether you succeed or fail is irrelevant. You can do it. You can do it, and you can brush yourself off, and you can try again. So that's the beautiful thing about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. So what else can you do? You can stop doing everything right. We all have this wonderful rebel streak within us. And some of us have a big wide one, and some of us have just teeny tiny little one, and they might not even know it's there. They got to go searching for it. But I beg of you, people, find that damn thing, rip it open, and let it shine. You are all adults. There is no reason to play small. You don't have to feel intimidated by anyone. I want to give you a phrase that you should tack on to every doubt that you have. For instance, if you say, yeah, but I haven't worked on that level. So that's why I'm intimidated to talk with that person. Instead of saying I haven't worked on that level, add yet to that phrase. I haven't worked on that level yet. Get used to adding yet to the things you haven't done. And that will begin to make them possible for you in your brain. So I think we can be forgiven quite a lot of things when we are leading with our superpowers, right? We all have them. Some people are extremely intelligent. Some people are really funny. Some people are very charming. Some people are empathetic. Some people are drop dead gorgeous. Everybody has something. Lead with that thing that is your strength and lean into it. Be cognizant of people's time, but don't ever feel like you don't have a right to take a little bit of that time, because you do. You absolutely do. There are no rules in this game. There are only the rules that you make for yourself. Another thing you can do is strive to get just a little bit better every single day. Now, I'm sure you've heard this one before, but it bears reminding, right? Everything is cumulative in life, in experience, in knowledge, in skill. Everything is cumulative. By the end of this course, I hope you have a little list of things that you are going to wanting to be working on. And if you just strive for 1% improvement on the things that you discover today that you need to strengthen, just think what you can get done in a year's time. It's cumulative. But the negative is also true. So if you imagine that you are standing on a mound of dirt and you've got a teaspoon, and every day doing nothing is like digging out a little scoop of earth and pitching it over your shoulder. And every day you are just sinking a little bit further into that hole of nothingness from doing nothing. Doesn't mean you can't climb out of it. That's not what I'm saying. You can climb out of it, but you must begin, right? So just like positive actions are cumulative, so are inactions. Inactions are negative, right? There's nothing worse than doing nothing. So you really need to lean into often the things that you are afraid of. For me, a couple of those were my age, right? I was 47, going on obviously 50. It's getting close to 50. And my German is still not perfect. It's good, but it's not perfect, and it never will be. You can take the girl out of America, but you can't take the American out of the girl when she gets here, when she's 28 years old. So for a long time, I was trying to look younger, be more accepted as a German woman, blah, 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 blah. And it's futile, honestly. I'm not. I am the age that I am. I was born in the country I was born in, and I have the mother tongue that I have, and that's what it is. And as soon as I stopped kind of trying to chase my tail on that one, is when I let people see all the great things about me as I am. And when I started to get cast in roles that were more than just kind of the dumb American, right? I live in Germany. So there was a lot of that trope of the stupid American. So the more you can lean into who you are, the more it's going to have a twofold effect. It is going to repel some people. It's going to act as a filter. You can think of it like that. Some people are going to say, nope, not for me. No, thank you. And baby, they're doing you a favor. Goodbye. Because there will be other people who will see what you have to offer and go, yes, that's exactly what I want. And the wonderful thing about that is you are being appreciated and valued for exactly what you have and exactly who you are. And you have to remember, even when you're trying to please everybody, you are not going to please everybody. So why bother? Don't bother trying to please everybody. And I think you will find that the more you stop trying to please everyone and are true to yourself, and obviously, I don't mean to be a rude jerk to people. I just mean to honor who you are as a human being and to let that shine in a way that is proud. The more you give people the opportunity to truly appreciate you for who you are and to see you for who you are, which makes it easier to cast you. Because when we're trying to fit into the world, right, when we're trying to please everybody, we have all these masks that are on, and we're sending out conflicting messages, confusing messages, and confused minds don't cast. They move on. There are too many actors who have done the work, the branding work, the marketing work to make sure that their marketing is on brand, their messaging is on brand, their networking. They know exactly who they need to be targeting. All of it. There are just too many that are out there. So they don't need to find someone who's confusing. So we've all been at one point in our career, we've all felt at one point in our career invisible. Maybe some of you even still feel that way. There is no shame in it because everybody starts there and everybody wants the same thing. And that's to be an in-demand actor. Because when you're in demand, you don't have to fight so much for the power in your career. And being able to articulate that thing that makes you unique and then infusing all of your marketing and your messaging and networking with that is the fastest, most effective way to becoming an in-demand actor. If you take nothing else away from this workshop, take that. So let's get into the actor's fulfillment quadrant. We're artists, right? It's not enough just to make money. Money's great. It's necessary. It is freedom. That's how I see money. Money is just freedom. Freedom from worry, freedom from stress, freedom to enjoy a meal out with my friends, freedom to enjoy a vacation with my husband and my son. It's freedom, right? Not having to worry about how I'm going to pay my rent or put food on my table. That's all it is. And it is also symbolic. It is symbolic of the value that people place on us for the work that we do. So the actor's fulfillment quadrant lives on two spectrums. There is the spectrum of bookings, right? And those go from low to high, right? If you're not booking much, you're obviously down low. If you're booking a lot, you're obviously up high on the booking spectrum. And then there's the esteem spectrum. And I love the word esteem. Esteem is value and appreciation and all of those wonderful things that we want in life, right? That we need in life. Not just want, we need these as human beings. And that also lives on a spectrum. Some people are getting a lot of esteem. And I'm sure you've all heard self-esteem, right? In relationship to self, which is important. But what I'm talking about is esteem coming from the outside to you, which feeds into self-esteem, of course. So there's low on that spectrum, and there's also high. So what does that look like? How does that work? So the undercast actor, this is an actor that is, when they work, this actor maybe does a theater piece a couple times a year, does a few smaller parts on films or television series a few times a year. When he works, he gets tons of great feedback from his colleagues, from the director, from his agent, from the casting director, from the audience, right? all of these people are giving him wonderful feedback on how he has impacted their work or their day or their life, maybe even, which is wonderful. So this actor is feeling pretty high on esteem. He's not getting enough work, right? So he maybe has to work a second job, or if he's lucky, his wife is a doctor, something, right? But the booking aspect of it is low. So his fulfillment is going to be not so hot. On the other side of that, there's the actor that is getting a lot of work, right? And this actor is getting a lot of work based on how he looks, whether that's a stereotypical thing. Like, for instance, I worked with this man who is the sweetest teddy bear of a guy, but he looks like a thug. He looks like a Russian mafia thug. Exactly what you are thinking is what this guy looks like. Bald head, broken nose, big buff, that kind of a thing. But the sweetest, nicest guy in the world. He works constantly. He never has much to say. He doesn't get cast for what he has to say. He gets cast for what he looks like. So I've had conversations with him because we've worked together, and I know that he would love to be more appreciated for his talent, for his skill. And he knows that the only reason he gets the jobs is because of the way he looks. So while, yes, his bookings are high, and that's good, his feedback loop on esteem is low. So his fulfillment is also not the greatest. And then there's the actor who's low on bookings and low on esteem, and they're feeling pretty invisible. And that is just one of the worst feelings in the world as a human being, right? We all want to feel like we are seen and acknowledged and that we matter. So where are you? I would love it if you would drop it in the chat where you are in this quadrant. And I want you to know that there is no shame in any one of those. And I have been in all of those at one point. Undercast, Stephanie. Undercast, Vanessa. I've lived in all three of those quadrants. So there is no shame in any of it. The important thing is, undercast, Nico, is because when you can recognize it, now you know, okay, what you need to work on. Invisible, Judith. Oh, that breaks my heart. Matthias, undercast and typecast. So you feel like when you get cast, you're being cast for a look, but you're still being undercast, if I'm understanding that correctly. Yeah. And it's so frustrating because I've worked with you and I know how good you are. And that is so frustrating. I want you all to know that you are all, every one of us is just one audition away from getting a role that could literally change your life and turn everything around and make you go from being typecast, invisible, undercast to being in demand. And that is an actor that is high on bookings, high on esteem, and high on fulfillment, which is obviously what we all want. So again, bears repeating, the fastest, most effective way to land your career-changing role is to market what makes you unique and irresistibly hireable. And I want to give you just a little tip here. It's often that thing you are most afraid of. Just like with me, I was afraid of admitting my age, and I was afraid that I wouldn't be valued because I didn't speak German perfectly. And once I leaned into both those things, I really started to get cast quite a lot. So let's get into the 3 actor blind spots. So as we dig into each one of these blind spots, I just want you to really think about which of these hits home for you, how they hit home, how they may be showing up for you as logic, because again, they do. We are always trying to protect ourselves, obviously, right? Our subconscious is there not to hurt us, but to protect us. And sometimes that protection is coming from a place of fear. So it keeps us from doing things that it's afraid of, that we are afraid of, instead of encouraging us to go out and get some scraped knees and stand up and try it again, right? We all learned how to ride a bike, right? Nobody learns how to ride a bike without scraping a couple of knees. That's all mistakes are scraped knees. So let's get into the first big blind spot. That one is dodging accountability. This one is super, super important. So when you find yourself blaming external circumstances or external people that are not you, for your lack of the career that you want, in whatever way that is. For instance, that can show up like, my agent isn't sending me enough auditions. The casting directors, they only cast the same people over and over again anyway. So they have their favorites, and I'm not one of them. And so, that's how it is. Or I don't have the money to get the training I need to get better at being an actor, right? So these are all blaming on external circumstances. These are things that are outside of you. And as soon as you say they don't, or she doesn't, or he doesn't, or I don't have the money, right? Any one of these things, you have just given away your power to whatever that thing is. And the way to take back your power is to look at the actual problem. For instance, lack of auditions. Okay, your agent isn't sending you enough auditions. What are some of the things that you could do right now today to change that? One, you could pick up the phone and have a conversation with your agent, right? That's one thing. Two, you could look and see what is happening in your area and who are the people outside of your agent. You could go straight to the casting directors. You could also go straight to directors, producers, screenwriters. Agents and casting directors are only two ways, two doors to getting more opportunities. But they are not the only doors to getting more opportunities, and they're not even the decision makers. So stop putting all of your hopes and dreams in somebody else's basket, right? Their basket is full, especially your agent, or if you don't have an agent. That's something that a lot of people blame on not having access to auditions as well. You don't actually need an agent to have access to decent auditions. It is helpful, but it is not 100% necessary. So there are many things, and you are all creative human beings. And one of the main things that I teach my clients to really hone and cultivate is they're feeling empowered to do the things that they were maybe afraid to do, understanding the step-by-step process of knowing what they need to do, and taking ownership of things so that the power is in their hands to do it, and turning that high-powered creativity that you all possess to the challenges that they're facing. So it's not just somebody else's problem or challenge. Challenge is a better word. It is your challenge, because your agent, if you have one, has probably got at least 50 other people, and they are, believe me, hedging their bets. But you've got one horse in this race, just one. And if your horse isn't going to get out of the gate, there is no prize to be won. There's nothing. So you have to make sure that your horse gets out of the gate and has a clear path to the finish line. So a lot of metaphors there. So I love this prayer. This is the Serenity Prayer. I don't know if any of you are familiar with this, but this is actually something that Alcoholics Anonymous uses. I'm not an alcoholic, but I think it's a beautiful prayer, and I think it's very apropos to many things in life. So you cannot change the outcome of things. You have no control whether a casting director decides to call you in, whether a director decides to hire you, whether an agent decides to take you into their roster. You have no control over those things. What you do control is your effort. So what you have to do is break that problem down, what I was getting at before, right? So you can call your agent, you can try and find other paths to whatever the problem is. If money is your problem, are there things in your home that you could sell? Do you have a neighbor that has a cluttered garage that would really appreciate you clearing out the garage, and maybe you can sell some of that stuff off, or maybe they'll pay you to do it and you can sell some of it off? Is there a mini job that you could pick up? I mean, there are always solutions, but it only happens when you stop looking at the this doesn't and I can't and they won't, and start looking at how can I? What can I? So again, the outcome, that is not for you to control, and don't make yourself crazy with it. But the effort is something you most certainly can control. You may not have control whether the director hires you, but you certainly have control over whether that director knows you are alive or not, and whether that casting director knows that you have the talent to carry off the role or not. Those are things within your control. So blind spot number 2, perfection paralysis. I am so guilty of this one. This is one of my weaknesses. Imperfect action is better than no action at all. And the first time I learned this was in acting school when I was 18 years old. I wanted all of my performances to just be amazing and perfect and moving and wonderful and all of that, right? And the more I wanted them to be, the more I was, I had that voice going on my shoulder. Could have done this, could have done that, should have done this, and da 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 da. The more I was in my head, the less I was in my body, the less I was present for my scene partner and the performance that I was trying to give, and the more I looked like a friggin' idiot, right? And it wasn't until I realized that and just kind of went, okay, this is not helping. I look like more of an idiot when I try not to look like an idiot than if I would just give in and try, right? And just do my best. So that freed up my acting quite a lot. Thank goodness that I figured that out in acting school. But it also shows up much later in life, right? And sometimes we get so focused on the minutia, on the tiny things like trying to put together a perfect show reel, waiting for all that material, right? From the 10 low budget films we've done this year, if you're in your year of yes, as I like to call it, right? First of all, you're waiting for material that is, I'm just going to tell it to you flat out, probably subpar. If it's a low budget film, chances are it's not going to be great material. Chances are. There are always the exception to that rule, but the chances are that it's not going to be something that is showing the industry where you want to go. It is only going to be showing them where you've been. And that's not always very helpful. There are other ways around showing them what you can do, because that's what it boils down to, right? You have to show them what you can do. And sometimes, especially in some of these low budget things, we're not being properly cast, right? And part of that is because we don't know. So we're maybe going for the wrong roles, and then they're making exceptions for whatever reason. There are all these different things that are at play. The writing usually isn't that hot, or maybe your best performance was when the camera was on the other person, or maybe the color coding is off, or any number of things, right? That is going to make the film, even if you finally do get it, because I find with most of these low budget productions, people seriously underestimate the cost of post-production. So they take into account the cost of pre-production and production, but they completely underestimate the cost of post-production, and the film never gets finished to a standard that it should be finished at. All that to say is that there are other things that you can do. For instance, the self-tape. That is the industry standard for showing our talent. And that a great self-tape is better than a crappy showreel scene by 100,000%. Done is better than perfect. So even like, I know, like for network stuff as well, we don't always get given our material. I luckily have always tried and make friends with the director or the DOP or one of the producers or something, so that I know somebody is going to make sure that I get my material. But even that, it can take at least a year from the time you shoot something to the time you get it, even with network productions. So done is better than perfect. And if you need to show the industry what you are capable of, then do it with a fan-friggin-tastic self-tape instead of waiting for showreel material. Okay? Blind spot number 3, not investing in your career, not investing the time, the energy, or the money into your career. Look, filmmaking, theater productions, TV series, these are all extremely expensive. And if you are not willing to invest in yourself, you are basically telling the industry, I'm not worth investing in. One of our jobs as actors is to give the industry confidence, give the people that are hiring confidence to know that we can do the job that we're hired for. Nobody's going to take your word for it. Nobody's going to take your acting teacher's word for it, right? You must show them that you are ready for a higher caliber opportunity. And the way that you show them is through your understanding of industry standards. There are standards in every industry at different levels. And if you want to work at a higher level, you must be showing up at that higher level. So what does that look like? It's an actor who understands what they bring to the table, what makes them unique, what sets them apart. And it's an actor that is infusing that into all of their marketing. So marketing materials, headshot show reels, the acting profiles, all of those kind of things, right? And the messaging are your emails, your social media, all of that, networking. So you have to show them that you understand. And then they can go, okay, this person, I get it. I can relax. This is one more weight off my shoulder. So for Heike, she was someone who had been working in theater for over 20 years, I think. She was also a director in theater and a drama coach, and had, I would say recently, in the past couple of years, switched over to film and television, was trying to get more into film and television. And she had a couple of limiting beliefs going against her. One was she wasn't sure how she was going to make sense of this, what she was seeing as a big gap, right? She had only done a few sporadic things on film and television, as opposed to all of this ton of theater work that she had done. So she wasn't sure that people were going to be seeing the value of that in the film and television industry. And she also just didn't know how she fit, because the film and television industry becomes very, very specific, right? Whereas in theater, there is a lot of artistic license to be taken. You can have a 40-year-old woman playing Juliet, right, in Romeo and Juliet. It's not unheard of. There's all sorts of artistic license taken with all sorts of things in the theater. But in film, we like it to feel very authentic, and even more so in this day and age. So part of that is casting the right person for the right role. But if you leave all of that decision-making up to the powers that be, you are going to end up with a lot of typecasting, because they're only seeing the superficial part of you. They're not seeing the inner part of you. So we did a lot of work, Heike and I, to figure out first what her low-hanging fruit is, right? First, what those kind of superficial things are. And then you go into climbing up the tree and cherry picking all the good roles, right? But first, you got to get your foot in the door. First, you have to establish yourself and establish a modicum of trust. That's what she needed to do. And within just a couple of weeks of finishing the course, as you can see, she had already booked 3 roles in 3 different television series in a matter of 2 weeks. And then she called me a week after that and told me that she had been booked on another thing, which I couldn't be more proud of her. And one of the reasons that we're even still in contact is because, I mentioned earlier in the call, implementation, right? Implementation is everything. So for me, it's really, really important not to withhold my support. So once a client, always a client, but she's only paid once to be my client, but she always has my support. So with Heike, she needs it less and less now. But there are some clients that I have that need more support, and that's fine. Some people take longer to take these lessons into themselves and make them organic, and that's fine. But my thing is, I'm really invested in seeing my clients succeed. So you have to think of the business like a bird. So it has 2 wings, right? One wing is made up of your skills, your talent, your life experience, your unicorn factors, all of these wonderful intangible things that make you, you. And on the other side of that is the business, right? We have the craft of being an actor, and then we have the business of being an actor. And unless both of those wings are strong, that little bird is never going to get up off the ground. That bird needs both those wings to get up into the air and truly soar. So on a scale from 1 to 10, how well do you think you understand what makes you stand out? I'd love to know where you are in your career. 1 being like no clue, and 10 being, oh, I'm nailing this. I know exactly who I am and what I bring to the table. And again, there's no shame here. We are so close to ourselves that it's really hard to know what it is that makes us special. When you see yourself every single day, you don't notice the changes, right? And we've all known that person who doesn't see how beautiful they are, right? Who doesn't see what a truly wonderful person they are, who seem so down on themselves. And it's because they are not seeing themselves the way they are, right? So it is human nature. We are all wearing the lenses of our life experience. And sometimes those are rose colored and sometimes those are dark. But either way, they are clouding our vision. And that's why it makes it difficult to see ourselves as we truly are. And we are complex. We are human beings. We're complex human beings trying to understand what are the attributes that we have that is going to best serve us in portraying complex human beings. So there's a sentence for you. So if you were to master how you're perceived in the industry, what impact do you think that that might have on your career? And this one is super important. Can you commit to learning more about this for yourself? So whether you are a 3 or a 7 on this scale of understanding what makes you stand out, there is always room for improvement, because this one thing is going to make all the difference in your career. So you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. I don't know if any of you are familiar with James Clear. He's the author of Atomic Habits. That's a fantastic book. I love it. I've implemented a lot of it into the 5-pillar framework because he uses a lot of wonderful systems that really make a lot of sense and that help you clearly see the things that you have control over and the things that you don't. So let's get into the 5-pillar framework. So this is a framework that I have devised, and it came about when I realized, so as I was saying, I had a lot of limiting beliefs around my age and my lack of perfect German. One of the things I did to get over my limiting beliefs was to become a life and career coach. And it wasn't out of initially some sort of ulterior motives. I wanted to get over my own limiting beliefs, which I did. And what it made me realize was that if I could adopt somebody else's framework and strategy and belief system and just borrow that until I could make it my own, I would be condensing my timeline. And that was like a huge revelation for me. So as soon as I realized that, I started hiring coaches left and right. I was always hiring acting coaches. In the beginning of my acting career, I was bringing acting coaches to Munich once, twice a month sometimes, from LA, from New York, from London, from Berlin, just organizing workshops so that I could get back to feeling confident about my talent. This is something that I think actors are very familiar with, is hiring coaches for that aspect of it. But because I was in a pretty damn big hurry to also start getting my career on the go, and I knew that whatever strategies I had been using when I was a 20-year-old, or lack thereof, I hadn't really been using any strategies back then. Whatever I was doing back then wasn't going to be working for me now. So that's when I also started to look around and see if I could find coaches to help me understand how to get a foot in the door in this industry. And that kind of, bing, 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 it started this whole kind of arcade game of like me bouncing around from coach to coach. And many of them had a lot of great things to offer. And I was able to take something from all of them. I would say, with very few exceptions, I didn't waste any of my considerable spent money. I think I've probably spent in the past 10 years upwards of 30,000 euros, but I've also easily made that back tenfold. So was it wasted money? I mean, it was a lot of money to spend, but I've made it back and more. So for me, it was money well spent. And the more I did it, it's kind of addictive. I still have a business coach because I believe in still getting outside perspective and feedback and coaching where I need coaching. And I still go to acting coaches, right? Because I still want that feedback as well. It is the fastest way that I have found to get where I want to go. So from all of the different things that I learned from all of these different people, I came to believe that there are 5 pillars of a thriving acting career. And they are mindset, branding, marketing, networking, and community. And think of this like the base on which you build your thriving acting career. And all of these pillars are connected holistically. One is not more important than the other. They are integral to each other. One without the other, one missing one of those pillars, and they're all weaker because of it. So the first two, really, the ones that you really have to get into place first, are mindset and branding. But it's not even enough to know that these pillars exist. We must be able to recognize where the cracks are, where the crumbles are, because there's no point in building a house on top of a crumbling foundation, right? And even that's not enough to recognize that there might be cracks in the mindset pillar or crumbles in the branding pillar. We must lastly know what to do about it. What can we do to get these pillars whole and strong again, right? And for me, that's when I came to, for myself, initially develop this kind of step-by-step program. I've always been one of those people that learn best by teaching. When I wanted to get in shape when I was 16, I became an aerobics instructor. It's just something that's kind of in my DNA, and it holds me accountable in a whole nother way that makes me thoroughly understand things when maybe, to be honest, I might be lazy if it were only up to me. But first, I wanted to truly understand it for myself. And I also started a podcast so that I could interview people and find out, because success leaves clues, but guess what? So does failure. So it was knowing what doesn't work is just as important in knowing what does work. So the very first pillar, as I mentioned, is mindset. And again, don't think of these as pillar, like first pillar as in most important pillar. It's just the first pillar that you need to get into place. Think of it like dominoes, right? The mindset pillar needs to be in place so that it can do that beautiful knocking down of all the other dominoes. So whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. This is one of my favorite phrases. It's even on my WhatsApp, that little thing where we can have a WhatsApp phrase on there. And it's on there for myself. I have that as a reminder to myself that we are capable as human beings of amazing things, but it starts with belief, with having that trust in yourself and belief in yourself that yes, you can make it happen. And when you don't have that belief, borrow it from a belief system that works for you, that resonates with you, like I did for my limiting beliefs around the challenges that I was facing, right? In mindset, this is where we confront personal barriers, fear, self-doubt, limiting beliefs, right? Past rejections. And we learn to reframe all of these things so that they're working for you and not against you. So this is really important. It's very healing. It's very cathartic. It's deep. It's challenging work. I'm not going to lie, but it's very, very much worth it and very necessary, because I don't have to tell anybody on this call, nobody is swinging open the emerald gates and laying out a path of posies for us to merrily dance towards the Oscars to. We must forge our own path in this industry. And in order to do that, we need to have a really strong mindset. So when this is off, everything is off. You're never recognized, first of all, that you're never going to feel 100% about anything. Nobody does. So you are not alone in that. And everybody, I'm sure, on this call is not 100% about anything. You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Action is the thing that leads to confidence, not the other way around, right? So take those actions that you've been afraid of, that you've been procrastinating on, that you've been putting off, that you've been waiting to get the perfect material for, all of those things. Just do it. Just do it. And strive to get 1% better every day. Set attainable goals. So remember before when I said you are not in control of the outcome, but you can control the effort. So take stock of the goals that you have for yourself and break them down into steps where you have control over the effort of what you're doing. and do at least one thing every day towards your goal. And don't try to work on a million goals at one time. Part of the thing of making a goal attainable is not setting too many huge goals. So set a few, and then set a few more, and then a few more, and a few more. And people always overestimate what they can get done in a year and underestimate what happens in a 5-year time period. So just remember that all of that is cumulative. So don't put too much on your plate, but keep moving forward with it. And know that the healing work of this comes quick and it comes hard, but it's important, right? It's really important work. First of all, for bringing back that joy, because I know a lot of times with many, many, many of the actors that I've coached, they're at a point where they're so disheartened, so frustrated, feeling so shut out from the thing that they want more than anything, that they feel hopeless, right? Sadness comes from feeling hopelessness. When you feel sad, you feel like there is no hope for improvement. Overwhelm, on the other side of that, causes anxiety. And both of those things can be something that you're feeling when your career isn't going the way you want it to. Sad if you feel like there's no way, there's no hope to make it better because you just don't know how. Or overwhelm if you know that there probably are a million things you could be doing, but you don't know which one of those things are going to be effective. And that causes anxiety. And these are just normal things. For Ivana, this was also something that happened very quickly. But when I met Ivana, she had come to me. She basically said to me, look, this is my last ditch thing. If this doesn't work, I'm done. I have 2 kids. My husband is a teacher. I'm just going to, whatever, be a stay-at-home mom, and she was really like at the end of her rope with acting. And within a few weeks into the course, doing a lot of the mindset work, right? She was doing the work. She was riding home from the theater one day with another actress who was also feeling like she was feeling just before she came into the course. And she was bitching about, I'm done. I don't like it. That fuck this industry, all of these things, right? She was angry. She was upset. And Ivana all of a sudden found herself basically jumping in and saying, yes, you can do it. It's just your mindset. And then it was like this like, wait a minute, did I just say that? And it was in that moment, she didn't even know it before then, that all of these things that she had been working on had slowly been clicking away inside of her until it came out of her mouth. You're not going to know it all at once, or you're not going to go, oh, today I feel a little bit stronger in my mindset, right? It's a process, but all of a sudden you will start to know and see the difference in how you act towards challenges that come up, how you act towards your limiting beliefs, and how you act towards the things that you're willing to take on that you maybe wouldn't have been before. Once you get your mindset into place, then it's time to work on your branding. The difference between being typecast and being cast on your brand, I'm not crazy about the word brand for actors. We're human beings, right? I get it. I'm not crazy about it, but it is what it is, right? It's still a business, and we do have our unique selling prospect. I'm not even sure what the P stands for, but I like to call branding, these are your unicorn factors. I think it's a much better, much more fun phrase. And you don't have to think of unicorns as like sunshine and rainbows and flowers and all of this stuff, right? It doesn't have to be that. There are also dark unicorns. And the beautiful thing about our industry is we need everything. We need the sunshine. We need the rain. We need the dark. We need the thunder. We need the clouds. We need it all. And that's what is beautiful. We need you just the way you are. Know that, first of all. So the difference between typecasting and branding is, well, if you're getting a lot of roles that are one-dimensional, that are only necessary to the story in so much as they affect another character. For instance, say you are a waiter in a restaurant and the main character comes in and you need to take their order and you're screwing up their order and you're just adding to their bad day and this and that and da, 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 right? But honestly, whether it was that scene or not, it was really about the character having all of these challenges put on them. It's not about the typecast character getting the challenges. Does that make sense? I hope that's making sense. So typecasting is more on the superficial, exterior qualities that we bring. These include our external appearance, our background, our voice, the way we move, right? The first impression, that's a better way to put it. The first impression that you make on someone, whatever that is, all the energy that goes into the first impression that someone gets of you, that's what people are typecasting you on. When you get into the branding of it, then you are being cast not only on the first impression, because obviously it still matters, but then you are also being cast on the two deeper qualities, right? Your two deeper traits. When you see someone across the room, and you immediately get a sense of who that person is. You can see the guy standing in the corner, with a cigarette maybe, and he's got glasses perched on his nose, probably a balding head, his shirt is buttoned up, and he looks very intellectual, and you just know this guy's leading with his brain. And then there's somebody else, there's a sexy man leaning against the wall, and his shirt is open, and he's languidly leaning there, and this is somebody who's leaning with their body. This is all typecasting stuff. To get to know them a little better, you would have a conversation and notice, oh, the sexy guy is also kind of smart, or maybe he's really funny, or things like this. This is a second layer, a little bit deeper than the typecasting layer. And then there is that internal, our core layer, that thing that the people who know you best say about you when people ask them to describe you. Words like driven, passionate, egotistical, vain, right? So all of these like deeper qualities, these go into branding. And when you start getting cast on your brand, you are going to notice that the roles become much more complex. They have light and dark. They have more conflict. And they're a hell of a lot more fun to play. Baked beans. What does this have to do with anything? Well, a while back, I had created this branding workbook and I had posted it into a Facebook group as a giveaway. I wanted to give it away because I know that branding is one of the things that actors really struggle with, understanding not only what it is, but how to figure out their brand and what the difference is and blah, blah, blah. So I posted this into the group and there was a guy who made a comment who said, actors and branding, we're actors. We don't need to know about branding. We're not baked beans, laugh out loud. I'm not going to lie. That really annoyed me when I read it for about 5 minutes. And then I thought about it and I thought, oh, this guy has just given me a huge gift and he doesn't even know it. Because what I realized was when you go to the grocery store and you're standing in this aisle of baked beans, right? And you're looking at all the shelves of baked beans. And you see them from the top shelf to the bottom shelf. And there are glass jars of baked beans with beautiful labels that look like they've been hand drawn, or watercolor paints, or maybe they've got pictures of grandma's simmering baked beans with chunks of bacon and brown sugar melting into the top of it. And then as you move down a little bit, you've got the cans of baked beans, right? And those maybe are looking a little bit poppier, but some of them are still going for the home style aesthetic. And then you move down a little bit more and you've got the Tetra Packs. And those are talking about organic and save the world and all of those kind of things. And then you move down a little bit further and you've got the no-name baked beans. And those are the ones you pick up and you take home and you zhuzh them when you get home, right? Put your own stuff into them. I don't need to go on. The point that I'm trying to make about this is all of those companies representing all of those different brands of baked beans have put a ton of thought and consideration into each and every one of their products. Don't you think that you as actors are worth at least as much thought and consideration as a can of baked beans? So Mary was someone who really struggled with this immensely. She just had no idea. She had come to acting very late. She had had a successful career doing something else entirely. I always had wanted to act, but had been a single mom and was finally able to do it as she got older. And she was kind of like dealing with all the things that a lot of us deal with. Like, how do I fit in? How do I stand out? You know, that doesn't even work together, fitting in and standing out, right? So she was having a lot of trouble with that. But through the work, the deep work, she was able to figure out who it is that she wants to bring to the table and how she's being perceived. And I just recently spoke with her, and she just got a recurring role on a Lifetime series. I can't mention the series because there's an NDA. And for those of you in Europe, Lifetime is an American channel like Hallmark or something like that. But could not be more proud. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with Ikigai. This is a Japanese concept that helps you find your life's purpose. But I've kind of repurposed this to help you understand your soul roles, what I like to call your soul roles, those roles that really make you feel fulfilled, that are not only fun and interesting to play and challenging to play, but also you're being compensated fairly for them. So Ikigai is made up of 4 different components. One of them is what you love, right? Your passion for something. These are your themes and your genres. You need to be aware of these. These are things you will find within yourself. We all have themes that we resonate with in our lives, in roles that we want to play. Then it's what you're good at. This is your profession, right? These are your skills, your talents, all the things that you're naturally good at. There's also what the world needs. These are your unicorn factors, because of course the world needs you just as you are, to lean into all of your wonderful uniqueness. We don't need a copy of anybody else. We need you. And lastly, what you can be paid for, your vocation, right? The types of roles that you can authentically play and that people are willing to give you a chance to play and pay you to play. And initially, these may be the low-hanging fruit roles. They may be typecasting roles. But the more you establish yourself within these roles, the more you can climb that tree and get fruit that's not so low hanging. So the journey of understanding what your brand is first begins by looking inwards. There are lots of different tools. These are just some of them, but it really explores, when you break it down to its most simple component, of understanding the themes that drive you, the themes that resonate with you, the themes that you find yourself constantly being drawn to. There's a reason that you have these themes in your life. What are your themes? What are the themes that keep coming up in your life? And what are the themes in the characters that you would really love to play? And I think you will find, at least this has been my experience coaching many, many, many people, they overlap in a big way. Once you've got your themes figured out, then you can look a little bit more, you don't have to be quite so deep. And you can start thinking about the way you would like to express yourself. And that is looking towards the genres that really light you up. So for me, it was a long time coming, but I'm really coming around to comedy right now. And I feel like a twinge of embarrassment saying that. So I'm just going to own that right now, because I think for many, many, many years, I felt like comedy didn't have the same value as drama. And I'm not sure why I had that limiting belief in my head around that. And obviously it's still there a little bit. Otherwise I wouldn't have felt that twinge, because I know logically that's not true. But I love it. And my absolute favorite type of genre is dramedy. So a little bit of heightened reality and real situations that are just a little bit heightened and taken into the comedic realm, but the characters don't know they're being funny. So that's my favorite kind of a thing. But everybody has their own thing that drives them, and there is no right or wrong. Just understanding what they are will then later on give you direction when it comes to your marketing and your networking. Once you understand what drives you, your themes and your genres and those things, then it's super important to get outside perspective on how you're being seen, how you're being perceived. And one of the tools for that is the first impressions quiz. And it is exactly what it sounds like, right? It's a quiz with 23 questions where you get 23 new pieces of information, ideally from strangers. And it looks like this. There's a spreadsheet that's made out of it. You actually don't even have to do anything once the quiz is made. The sheet gets made automatically by Google. I have no idea how they do it, but they're amazing. I love Google. And there you go. And then you can pull out all of that information and see how that aligns or doesn't align with how you would like to be perceived. And then you have a much better idea what you need to tweak and where you need to tweak it. Once that is clear, then we move into marketing. And marketing is just a strategy that puts you out there in front of the people that need to know that you are alive. And it's done in a way that shows them what level you are at, right? So it consists of all the things that you think it consists of: your headshots, your show reel, your casting profiles, all the portals, all those kind of things, right? And that's the macro level. It also exists on a micro level. This is the messaging that we are putting out there: your emails, your social media, the DMs, even extending to conversations that we have at film festivals and other kind of industry events. All of that needs to be reflective of your brand. But that's not a problem if you're being true to yourself. It only becomes a problem when you're not being true to yourself. So marketing isn't about quantity. It's about the quality of what you're putting out there. And you must, of course, tailor your approach to be highlighting where you want to go, and again, not where you've been. So this is also super, super important. Show the industry where you want to go and not where you've been. So marketing isn't just about selling, although that is part of it, but it definitely, when it comes to us as human beings, as actors, as people, which is what we are, it's certainly leaning towards a soft sell, right? We don't want to be like, hire me, right? We all know those actors that are super pushy and in your face. And yes, it probably does work to a certain extent, but there are also lots of people in the industry that just roll their eyes. I've got someone in my course right now. She's a producer of Snowdance Film Festival, which is a pretty big film festival here in Germany. And obviously her network is amazing. The problem is right now, right, people don't necessarily know what a good actor she is as well. So that's why she's taking the course. But she has told me on numerous occasions about different people. Well, she'll be standing there talking to a director or a casting director, and literally this actor will come and push her out of the way and, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm an actor, and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, mm-hmm. And how does the other person react? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, that's what I thought, right? Nobody likes it. Nobody wants a transactional relationship. So a strategy to keep in mind for marketing is infusing all of your marketing and your messaging with that special something, your unicorn factors that make you stand out. Because when you are standing out, you are eliminating the competition. When you are being uniquely you, you are eliminating the competition. This is not a website, by the way. These are not templates for websites. I actually think websites are one of the worst things that actors can have for themselves. And let me explain that, because I know a lot of you probably have websites. They can be useful, but I don't think they're useful for controlling what people are seeing. So when you steer them to your website, maybe you've got your blog on there. Maybe you're also a singer and a dancer. Maybe you play the guitar. Maybe you do some voice work. Maybe you do some theater, but you really want to be concentrating on film and television. But at the moment, you're doing more theater because, hey, you love acting. And you've got your social media links on there. And there's your show reel, but there's your old show reel too. But maybe they want to look at that. You never know. And you've got galleries and galleries of the years of headshots that you have taken. And, they might want to see those too. And they have an idea, at least, of how you've changed through the age. It's overwhelming and it's distracting. And as soon as they, for instance, most websites, you're not hosting your video yourself, you're hosting it on YouTube or on Vimeo or something. So as soon as they click on your website, especially if it's like a YouTube thing, I think Vimeo does it too, though. If they watch your entire show reel, if they watch the entire thing, right afterwards, they are going to be shown somebody else's thing, which they might find interesting, right? Especially if they're on their own home computer. Trust me, YouTube knows exactly what that person wants to see. So while they may have clicked on your link to watch your show reel, if they're into little puppy dogs, they're going to be shown a puppy dog right after that. And they're going to go, oh, how cute, that puppy dog. And they're gone. They're not coming back to your website. Or another thing, they might look at your social media tabs and go, oh, okay, well, let's see how many followers she has. And they're gone. They're on Instagram. They're over there looking at your followers. And then they look up and they see, oh, I've got 3 messages and 4 likes. Let me go check that out. Who liked my post? And they're gone and they're not coming back. So these are actually templates for EPKs. EPK stands for Electronic Press Kit, but I call it an electronic pitch kit because that's what it is. It is a way for you to pitch yourself, whether you need a new agent, whether you want to reach out to casting directors, whether you want to pitch yourself for a casting notice that you've seen, whether it's a cold outreach or a warm outreach, whatever it is, you can tailor these and use each one of them for a different situation. For instance, I have one for when I was pitching to look for a new agent in London. And then I had another one, that I use when I'm pitching myself for a casting notice or something like that, or when I'm looking through projects that are coming up and cold pitching myself. So what I didn't want my clients to have to do, and I know that my clients are all creative people and they see something like they think, oh, I have to make an EPK. Well, I want it to look good. I want it to be beautiful. I want it to have a great font and really be reflective of me and da, 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 da. And it should be, it definitely should be all of that. But what I didn't want my clients to do was get lost in having to put so much brain power into creating their electronic pitch kit. So I made these templates, and of course, they're all customizable. You just have to drag and drop your stuff into it, and then you're good to go. Angelica was someone who, this is a portion of hers. You can't see the whole electronic pitch kit. But when she first came to me, her look was all over the place. She had like a look that represented everything, and her main picture was a very kind of a sweet, girly type of thing. And when we got into asking about what are your themes, what are your genres, she had said that one of her favorite roles that she would love to play is the Rosamund Pike role in Gone Girl. And I think when you look at what she has going on here now, you can see that this is very much aligned in that direction. This is an intelligent, somewhat dangerous looking woman. And so I think she did a fantastic job with it. And the thing that was most important for her was realizing that she could actually rely on her instinct. She didn't have to be such a people pleaser. She could lean into those things that interested her. And that's what I want you all to take away from this. So on a scale from 1 to 10, how well do you think you understand how to market yourself? 1 being like, not a clue. And 10 being like, I am a pro. If you want some help with this, hit me up in the DMs. It's obviously very important because marketing is how we get the message out about who we are and what we do. And I know many of us think that, marketing consists of sending out our quarterly blasts to casting directors and maybe going to some film festivals or some industry events and those kind of things. And that's kind of what else do you do after that? But there are lots of things that you can be doing. So can you commit to learning more about this for yourself? Because this is also an area that once you've mastered your mindset and your branding, this is the next area to really focus your attention to start saying, hello, world, here I am. I am available. So once your mindset, branding, marketing is all on point, then you can move into putting the whipped cream on top and the cherry on top of that, and that is networking. So The big lie that we've all been told about networking is that it's all about who you know. That is not true. It is part of the equation. It is exactly 1/3 of the equation. The first part of that equation is what you know. That is your skill, your talent, your energy, all of the things that you bring, the things that you know how to do as an actor. That's what you know, right? The second part of that is who you know. But the most important part of that equation is who knows you. Because you can be the most talented actor in the entire world. But if the people who have the power to hire you don't know you're alive, you are never going to get the chance to show the world what you can do. The good news is we are all separated by who we need to know by only 6 degrees. So I don't know if you are all familiar with this 6 degrees of separation theory. So the idea is that we are all separated in the world by just 6 people. So I know someone who knows 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 the King of England, right? So there was a game going around a while back, a long time ago, called The 6 Degrees of Separation from Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon was a big actor in the 80s and 90s. I'm not sure how many of you on the call know him, but I'm dating myself here. But I've already told you I'm over 50, so there you go. And I am 1 degree away from Kevin Bacon because I did a film a couple of years ago with Eric Roberts, who is Julia Roberts' brother. So I guess I'm 1 degree away from Julia Roberts as well. And that would make me also 1 to 2 degrees away from Brad Pitt. So there you go. Anyway, 1 degree away from Kevin Bacon because I worked with Eric Roberts, who also worked with Kevin Bacon. All that to say is that you know someone who knows someone. I'm not going to be writing Julia Roberts or Brad Pitt a letter tomorrow saying, by the way, I worked with so-and-so who knows so-and-so who knows so-and-so, right? Obviously not. But I could technically write to Eric. I do have his email and reestablish a connection with him, or more to the point, his wife, who's the one I became friends with. We are all just 6 degrees away from who we need to be in contact with. So take stock. What can you do about it? You can take stock of all of the people in your immediate network and all of the people in your peripheral network. And then start taking stock of the people who are in their peripheral network and establish professional friendships with people who are a couple of degrees above you. And once those are established, then you can move on to the next level, right? Sort of like a stone, and then all the ripples, they keep going out. And you just keep dropping those stones in the water to make more ripples, basically. So when you cultivate authentic relationships with people who have the power to move the needle on your career, then big things happen because people like to work with people they like. It is human nature. So it's great to know all those people, but you also have to have a way to keep track of all these people. So this is an extensive spreadsheet system, I know. You don't have to use all of it. Some of it is like agent databases. Some of it is casting director databases. Some of it is like people you would like to cultivate relationships with. Some of it is past relationship databases. The one thing that all actors should be keeping track of, without a doubt, are their auditions. Who has been calling you in for auditions? What kind of roles have you been getting? What have the breakdowns looked like for those roles? So when you look back over this, first of all, you have a way of measuring, right? Am I getting better? Am I getting better roles? Am I getting more lucrative roles? Is the same casting director calling me in again and again? All of these things become something that is measurable, which means you're getting feedback on it. Because another thing that I would really love for you to take to heart is that this is just a game. It's not personal. It is just a game of strategy. And the better you learn to interpret the feedback that you're getting, the better you are going to get at playing this game. So this is just another way to collect and interpret feedback. And another way that a tool like this can be extremely useful is, for instance, say you are looking for an agent. You could take this list to the agent and say, these are the things, and it doesn't matter if they're, not high caliber things, right? Because everybody, again, has to start somewhere. I'm just saying, don't wait for those high caliber things to show people what you can do. But they do count as far as something to show that people believe in you and are casting you. So you can take a sheet like this that has all of your auditions and the roles that you've been cast in and what your percentages are of getting cast and callbacks and things like that, and take that to an agent. And first of all, show them that you are castable. Also show them the relationships with some of the casting directors that you may have, or directors or producers. If you already have an agent, you are giving them the gift of not having to make cold calls, right? So the next time they see Cornelia von Braun, who's a casting director here in Germany, is casting something, they will say, oh, so-and-so has done 6 auditions for this casting director. Fantastic. So when they see that she is actually casting an international film, your agent will be much more empowered. We want to empower not only you, but also your agent to work on your behalf, to call up the casting director and say, hey, you know what? You haven't called in so-and-so yet, but she's actually auditioned 6 times for this casting director. So I think she would want to see her for this role. So it's a way of empowering yourself and the people who you are entrusting to help you. So I've learned that a strong network is the ultimate shortcut to everything you want to achieve. I didn't write this. I wish I had, but I do believe it, which is why I put it here. Again, people like to work with people they like. The last pillar is community. It is not the last pillar because it's the least important. It's just the easiest one for us to cultivate. Actors many times overlook other actors as a resource. We are a wonderful resource for each other. Not only like when you see somebody asking for help on a self-tape, you should be the first one volunteering, because they might have access to who's casting it, what other roles are available. I know I personally had a friend come over and help me. I was auditioning for a feature film that was shooting in Italy. We did the take a few times, and by the time we were done, he knew the other part perfectly. And I was like, let's just turn the camera around. And he was like, no, I didn't get an invite to this audition. And I was like, so what? You're perfect. Just do it, right? I mean, what's the worst that can happen? The casting director will throw it away. She won't look at it. So he did it. Well, guess who got the part, right? He went and shot in Italy for 2 weeks. I didn't get it, but there you go. And the other reason is you are going to need someone to help you with your self-tapes. So make yourself available to other actors when they need you, because someday you're going to need someone too. And also, actors are a wonderful resource for getting perspective and feedback, and mentors are a wonderful resource for getting perspective and feedback. Obviously, I would love to help each and every one of you to level up in your careers. And if you resonate with me, I hope that you'll make a phone call at the end of this for us to have a conversation. If you don't feel like you resonate with me or what I'm putting out there, that's fine too, but find someone who you resonate with, who can give you feedback from at least 10 steps in front of you. Someone who's been there and done that and is moving on to the next thing. And someone who understands. I think a lot of times actors end up getting mentored by casting directors. Casting directors are excellent for telling you how to nail a casting, at least what they like to see in a casting. Most of them don't know what it's like to be a working actor today. And also you get into pay to play and all of that as well. But anyway, that's another story. So community is a wonderful place, a wonderful resource for getting the perspective and the feedback that you need to make sure that you are on brand, right? That the messaging that you're sending is being received the way you want it to be received, that your marketing is on brand, that your messaging is on brand, and then the networking takes care of itself. Ivana, again, she said that I was like an acting mom. And I love this. This is obviously because I think an acting mom is someone who's kind of like tough love. And I think that this probably does sum up my style pretty well. I'm definitely nurturing and motivating. I hope you've all noticed that on this call. You know, that is how I am. but I also am, I don't mince words, right? So if I see something, I will call it. So if somebody being too direct with you or you're very, very sensitive, we might not be the best fit because I am very direct. I always try and do it with compassion and love, but I am a direct person and I don't allow people to play to their limiting beliefs. If somebody's going to fight for their limiting beliefs, I will be the first person in there fighting against that because I don't think it serves my clients. Okay, so here's a huge question. What do you think has been missing from your strategy to get you to the next level? What is the one thing you think has been missing from your strategy to get you to the next level? Whether you think you're standing in your own way, or it was branding, or marketing, or networking. Networking can be one of those really tricky things, right? Because networking, I had many conflicting ideas about networking before I really truly began to understand it. I felt like it was very transactional, and I didn't like that. We all want authentic relationships. We are human beings. We thrive on that. Let's talk about the journey from being invisible to in demand. This is a journey we have all taken at one point or another, and we may be at different points along this journey. We all start out as invisible actors, every one of us. Then we begin to get our mindset in place. We start to have a mindset shift. We start to turn our limiting beliefs into belief in ourselves. We turned rejection into success. We learn to turn what has been holding us back into things that can propel us forward. And when that happens, we begin to understand who we truly are and what we truly want. And we get much more clear on our brand. When that happens, we then can turn around and align all of that clarity into our marketing and our messaging to make sure that what we're putting out there is reflective of who we are and how we want to stand out, how we want to be seen. And then we have a much clearer path towards who are the people that we want to be developing relationships with, professional friendships with. And once we get to this point, it is all just a matter of rinse and repeat, just kind of doing the same thing over and over again, and not even doing the same thing. You're really just honing it, right? Because you've already done the hard work. And then it's just a matter of honing it. So think of it as you have to throw a pebble into the water every once in a while to get the ripples going again. But you're not having to do any heavy lifting of boulders to throw into the water anymore. That part is done. And when that happens, when you get to the rinse and repeat part of your career, then you start to get into network expansion. And that's when you can really start to see that you start to get auditions for roles that are truly reflective of people's understanding of what you are capable of. Don't believe in pursuing dreams, believe in setting goals. I cannot stress this one enough. Dreams are a beautiful thing, but as I said in the very beginning, without actually taking action, it will remain just that. A dream will always be a dream unless you can map your ambitions to your aspirations, right? So find a way to map your ambitions to your aspirations so that you are constantly taking small steps towards where you want to go, as opposed to wishing it would happen, hoping it will happen, or not knowing what to do to make it happen. So the big ideas, this is just a quick recap of the things that we've talked about today. We've talked about the big challenges and the strategies that it takes to overcome them. So you can understand, like truly understand the challenges that you're facing. And we've talked about some of the strategies. Obviously, there are a lot more. We've only scratched the tip of the iceberg. And understanding which strategies that you can put into effect right now, as soon as you get off this masterclass, you can start making a list of some of the things that you can do towards your goals. We also talked about the actor's fulfillment quadrant, and that's so you can accurately assess where you are right now and what you need to work on so that you can bring both of those spectrums into the high levels and get more fulfillment in your careers. We also talked about the 3-actor blind spots. That's so that you can recognize them when they're creeping up on you And we talked about some things that you can do to stop them in their tracks, right? Because we definitely don't want them getting in front of you. You now understand the 5-pillar framework that is the base of a thriving actor's career and all of the elements that it's made up of. And you understand the journey from being invisible to being in demand. So, what are your biggest takeaways? I would love it if this is to help me out. I have really put a lot of time and effort into this masterclass, and I trust that you found some value in it. And I hope that you enjoyed being a part of it as much as I enjoyed giving it to you. But I would love to know, for me, what were your biggest takeaways? What were like your aha moments? What were the things that you were like, oh, wow, okay, I hadn't thought of it that way? Or, yeah, I think I heard that somewhere, but I needed to hear it again. Or that really reframed something for you and you were able to view it in a different light. So try and find a relaxing spot, stretch out, exhale, take a big inhale, and then close your eyes. And I want to do a really, really powerful exercise with you. I want you to imagine that in just 3 days from now, you've already started to dive into the mindset work and have begun to break through limiting beliefs that have kept you from achieving your goals. You're beginning to realize and truly believe in the depths of your soul that you have a place in the industry and you can fulfill your purpose as an actor. Now, I want you to imagine 3 months from now, you've created a strong personal brand that is clear and fully aligned with who you are and where you want to go. You feel more empowered and in control of your career than you ever have before. And finally, I want you to imagine you've just finished having a coffee with someone that you have always wanted to work with. This wasn't one of those meetings where you felt out of your depth or intimidated or lost for words. This was just a casual get together between friends. It just so happens that this particular new friend has some major sway in the industry. You have regular conversations with your agent who is ecstatic to represent you, and you never worry about sending them an email or annoying them when you pick up the phone call to find out the state of something. Your auditions are coming much more regularly now and include roles that you're excited about. So this is a really important part of this exercise. What type of person are you seeing in your future? How are they showing up in the future? How are they showing up for their career? How are they making decisions about prioritizing things in their career? And now my question to you is, are you committed to being and acting as this person from this point on? I really hope you are. That is a goal of mine, obviously, on this masterclass, is to empower you all to understand the places in your career that needs the most work, to shed some light on that so that you can begin to do the work of making those pillars stronger. Because again, information without implementation won't do you any good. So the question is, how does this future person start to make those changes? I would love to book a free call with any one of you and talk about, how we could strategize your career. If any one of these ideas have resonated with you, if I've resonated with you, then I would love to sit down and really have a conversation about where you're at in your career and the challenges that you're facing right now, and see if there isn't something we can do about that to get you where you want to go. But please don't book a call if you're just looking for a quick fix. You don't have a clue how this industry works. You're not ready then for what I can do for you, and maybe in a year, but not right now. If you're not willing to put in the work, or if you're happy where you are, then I guess don't book a call. But if any of the things that we talked about in the beginning apply to you, then definitely book a call, because I'm sure I can help you change that. I hope to get to talk to you a little bit more personally on a call someday very soon. And until then, You all stay your bold and beautiful selves. Bye bye.